What is up, my friends? Today we're going to discuss red light therapy and chlorophyll. So, turn on a little red light therapy so you see what I'm talking about. This is the BioLight, very effective tool. And so basically what we're going to talk about today is when you combine red light therapy and chlorophyll together. So if you haven't watched my podcast episode with the founder of Energybits, Catharine Arnston, she does an incredible job laying out a lot of this, but I'm going to really condense this into one video and bring the two together. So, first of all, I'm going to read some of the material, the scientific studies that Catharine has shared with me. So, basically the title of this is Chlorophyll and Red Light Therapy Together Generate ATP. So ATP is basically energy that is created through the mitochondria in our cells. So, basically I'm just going to read from this so you can get a general idea of the overview, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into some more practical tools and all that. So, chlorophyll is the green pigment. It's a green pigment, but under UV light, it is red. So chlorophyll is green when viewed under the white light because it absorbs the violet to blue and red portions of the light spectrum and thus reflects green light. And when chlorophyll is removed from the chloroplast and is viewed under blue or ultraviolet light, something drastically different happens. It glows red, just like our blood. In fact, the chemical composition of our blood and chemical composition of chlorophyll are virtually identical. So you can see this here. This is your blood, hemoglobin, and this is chlorophyll. So you can see the structure of it is incredibly similar. And basically the difference here is that we have an iron atom in the blood and we have a magnesium atom in the center of chlorophyll. And there are a few other slight changes you can see on the outside here, but for the most part, they're incredibly similar. So, scientists have recently discovered that when you have chlorophyll in your bloodstream, which is a fat-based pigment, and you're exposed to sunlight or red light therapy, so I personally always prefer sunlight. I think anything the natural version is better. But if you're in Boston, Massachusetts like me, or another cold part, it may be very difficult to get direct sunlight year-round. Maybe it's a cloudy day outside. Maybe it's the middle of winter and you're not getting sunlight for months or weeks or months at a time. So red light therapy is an incredible option to stimulate the mitochondria and another host of benefits. I've also done a podcast with the founder of the BioLight, Dr. Michael Belkowski, who has an incredible amount of information. So if you want to get specifics on spirulina, chlorella, chlorophyll, the podcast with Catharine Arnston is incredible. For the BioLight, red light therapy, Dr. Michael Belkowski. Both those are power packed. I'll put those links in the description here as well, or you can find them on my website. So anyway, when you're exposed to sunlight or red light therapy, you automatically and naturally create CoQ10, which then generates ATP in the mitochondria. So this is a really cool thing. So I've heard a lot of people talk about, if you ever heard me talk about the power shake from Purium, people call that liquid sunshine. And there's a lot of people saying, you get the chlorophyll from the greens, you mix that with sunlight, and that's, liquid sunshine. Are basically able now to absorb the sunshine and make energy out of that, just like a plant does with photosynthesis. So when I first heard that, and people often say, well, we're not plants, how does that work? So as the great Paul Chek has described, is that basically when we consume things like chlorophyll, they are almost acting like external organs in our body. So just like we have bacteria in our body that aren't technically, part of us per se, they're not like a human cell, they're an external factor that is working symbiotically with us. So when we're intaking things like chlorophyll through things like spirulina and chlorella, very highly dense superfoods, extremely dense superfoods, which you can get in the Energybits, you can get in things like the Power Shake and other Purium products. There's so many products out there that I love, and a lot of these have spirulina. So when you mix all these together with a little red light therapy and or sunshine, you've got a power-packed punch for a boatload of energy, and not to mention a lot of vitamins and minerals. So the way I look at spirulina is that's nature's multivitamin. A lot of multivitamins, the compounds that they put together, most of them are not organic. It's very rare you find an organic multivitamin. But also you think of, in nature, a lot of these things wouldn't come together. In what world are you going to be taking 6,000% of your daily vitamin C in a little capsule? And the reason they do that is because they know you're not going to absorb it, because it's not a real food, it's just isolates. I'm not a big fan of isolates. That's why all the products you see me working with are whole food supplements. They're not taking pieces. They're putting the whole foods together. So basically, you can see here, I've got the Recovery Bits by Energybits, and these are basically a mix of chlorella and spirulina. So you can see here, they're very small, and I got a palm full right here. And so basically, each one of these is 1 calorie. However, each one of these is also the equivalent to a plate of vegetables. Just drop one here. You can see one of these is equal to a plate of vegetables. And the reason for that, now that may be hard to believe because it was hard for me to believe at first too. But when you really study the farming practice that we use, we have farmed out so many of the nutrients in our soil, so many of the nutrition in our plant because we're using genetically modified foods, and that's not always the reason why, but part of it is that we're using the cheapest strains when they're just basically resistant to chemical herbicides and other pesticides, so they don't really have a lot of nutrition in them. We've monocropped, again, I can go on and on, you know, my studies of sustainable food and farming. So when I came to that connection, it's like, hey, you know, these are some of the most incredibly nutrient-dense foods in the world, and I think it was, might have been NIH, maybe the World Health Organization, one big national agency or, you know, worldwide agency had said that spirulina may be the answer to world hunger because of its nutrition, you know, its nutritional qualities and how nutrient dense it is. So basically, when you combine these two together, you're getting a lot of energy. So it's basically simple. You take these, you know, they don't taste great because they're algae. Take them down. I put a lot in there, didn't get them in one gulp. You know, maybe it takes 20-25 minutes, 30 minutes for your body to really start absorbing them before you're going to get the effects. I took some before, so I got the red light therapy. The sun has been on and off today, so I've been outside as well. But just a little bit more about the mitochondrial ATP synthesis, getting back to that. So the conversion of energy from carbohydrates and fats to ATP, the form of energy used by cells, requires the presence of coenzyme Q10 in the inner mitochondrial membrane. So as part of the mitochondrial electron transport chain, coenzyme Q10 accepts electrons from reducing equivalents generated during fatty acid and glucose metabolism and then transfers them to electron acceptors. At the same time, coenzyme Q10 contributes to transfer protons from the mitochondrial matrix to the intermembrane space, creating a proton gradient across the inner mitochondrial membrane. The energy is released when the protons fall back to the mitochondrial interior is used to form ATP. So, you know, there's a lot of information there. If you don't quite understand that, that's quite okay. Basically, the message is that this is stimulating the production of CoQ10, which is allowing a lot of these different processes to happen. So, you know, the take-home message here is that a very effective combination that we can utilize is red light therapy or sunlight in combination with really highly dense superfoods like chlorella and spirulina that are high in chlorophyll. And that's an essential piece. They need to be high in chlorophyll, and you need to consume them and have them absorbed into your body to really be, you know, getting the most of it. So just to kind of give a little final overview here, as you can see, this is the similarity between our blood and chlorophyll. Very similar structure. Gets from red light therapy. I'll put the link to the BioLight, which is the reason I love the BioLight, is that it has very low EMF emissions. So a lot of these red light therapy devices, you know, they talk a lot of talk. They have a lot of flicker, which is not great for the eyes. So this has some of the lowest flicker. I mean, this has the lowest flicker I could find for a red light therapy device. It also has the near infrared light, so it's actually penetrating at a deeper level than just the skin. So me wearing my shirt right now, you know, lifting my shirt up would actually give me a much better effect, but for the sake of a video, keeping the shirt on. And yeah, the founder is incredibly knowledgeable about this. As I said, you can check out that podcast to really dive deeper. Has very low EMF emissions, which you know I'm a big fan of. I also use Aries Tech to help with EMFs because, you know, we're surrounded by Wi-Fi constantly, 4G, 5G, LTE, all these different frequencies that are causing havoc on our bodies and especially on things like pollinators, causing a lot of hormonal disruption. So I can also put the link to the Aries Tech chips as well in here. But take home message, get a lot of chlorophyll, get your red light therapy, get the sunlight, combine the two, get a lot of energy. Check out these podcasts with these amazing people. Thank you for tuning in. Have the best day ever.